A day is a unit of time. In common usage, it is an interval equal to 24 hours. It also can mean the consecutive period of time during which the sun is above the horizon, also known as daytime. The period of time during which the Earth completes one rotation with respect to the sun is called a solar day. Several definitions of this universal human concept are used according to context, need and convenience. In 1967, the second was redefined in terms of the wavelength of light, and was designated the SI base unit of time. The unit of measurement, day, redefined in 1967 as 86400 seconds and symbolized D, is not an SI unit, but is accepted for use with SI. A civil day is usually also 86,400 seconds, plus or minus a possible leap second in Coordinated Universal Time, and, in some locations, occasionally plus or minus an hour when changing from OR to daylight saving time. The word day may also refer to a day of the week or to a calendar date, as in answer to the question, on which day, the life patterns of humans and many other species are related to Earth's solar day and the day-night cycle. In recent decades, the average length of a solar day on Earth has been about 86,400.002 seconds, and there are about 365.2422 solar days in one mean tropical year. Because celestial orbits are not perfectly circular, and thus objects travel at different speeds at various positions in their orbit, a solar day is not the same length of time throughout the orbital year. A day, understood as the span of time it takes for the Earth to make one entire rotation with respect to the celestial background or a distant star, is called a stellar day. This period of rotation is about 4 minutes less than 24 hours, and there are about 366.2422 stellar days in one mean tropical year, mainly due to tidal effects. The Earth's rotational period is not constant, resulting in further minor variations for both solar days and stellar days. Other planets and moons also have stellar and solar days. Introduction. Besides the day of 24 hours, the word day is used for several different spans of time based on the rotation of the Earth around its axis. An important one is the solar day, defined as the time it takes for the Sun to return to its culmination point. Because the Earth orbits the Sun elliptically as the Earth spins on an inclined axis, this period can be up to 7.9 seconds more than 24 hours. On average over the year, this day is equivalent to 24 hours. A day, in the sense of daytime that is distinguished from nighttime, is commonly defined as the period during which sunlight directly reaches the ground, assuming that there are no local obstacles. The length of daytime averages slightly more than half of the 24-hour day. Two effects make daytime on average longer than nights. The Sun is not a point, but has an apparent size of about 32 minutes of arc. Additionally, the atmosphere refracts sunlight in such a way that some of it reaches the ground even when the Sun is below the horizon by about 34 minutes of arc. So the first light reaches the ground when the center of the Sun is still below the horizon by about 50 minutes of arc. The difference in time depends on the angle at which the Sun rises and sets, but can amount to around 7 minutes. Ancient custom has a new day start at either the rising or setting of the Sun on the local horizon. The exact moment of, and the interval between, two sunrises or sunsets depends on the geographical position, and the time of year. A more constant day can be defined by the Sun passing through the local meridian, which happens at local noon or midnight. The exact moment is dependent on the geographical longitude, and to a lesser extent on the time of the year. The length of such a day is nearly constant. This is the time as indicated by modern sundials. A further improvement defines a fictitious mean sun that moves with constant speed along the celestial equator. The speed is the same as the average speed of the real Sun, but this removes the variation over a year as the Earth moves along its orbit around the Sun. The Earth's day has increased in length over time. This phenomenon is due to tides raised by the Moon which slow Earth's rotation. Because of the way the second is defined, the mean length of a day is now about 86,400.002 seconds, and is increasing by about 1.7 milliseconds per century. The length of a day circa 620 million years ago has been estimated from rhythmeters as having been about 21.9 hours. The length of day for the Earth before the Moon was created is still unknown. Etymology. The term comes from the Old English dag, with its cognates such as dag in Icelandic, tag in German, and dag in Norwegian, Danish, Swedish and Dutch. As of October 17, 2015, day is the 205th most common word in the US English, and the 210th most common in UK English. International System of Units. A day, symbol D, is defined as 86,400 seconds. The second is the base unit of time in SI units. A day according to Coordinated Universal Time can include a negative or positive leap second, and can therefore have a length of either 86,399 or 86,401 seconds. In 1967-68, during the 13th CGPM, the International Bureau of Weights and Measures redefined a second as the duration of 9,192,631,770 periods of the radiation corresponding to the transition between two hyperfine levels of the ground state of the cesium-133 atom. This makes the SI base day last exactly 794,243,384,928,000 of those periods. Decimal and metric time. In the 19th century, an idea circulated to make a decimal fraction of an astronomical day the base unit of time. This was an afterglow of the short-lived movement toward a decimalization of timekeeping and the calendar, which had been given up already due to its difficulty in transitioning from traditional, more familiar units. The most successful alternative is the center day, equal to 14.4 minutes. Being not only a shorter multiple of an hour but also closer to the SI multiple kilosecond and equal to the traditional Chinese unit, ke. Astronomy. A day of exactly 86400 seconds is the base unit of time in astronomy. For a given planet, there are three types of day defined in astronomy. Stellar day, an entire rotation of a planet with respect to the distant stars. Sidereal day, an entire rotation of a planet with respect to the March equinox. Mean solar day, the average time of an entire rotation of a planet with respect to its central star. For Earth, the stellar day and the sidereal day are nearly of the same length and about 3 minutes 56 seconds shorter than the solar day. Relative to the fixed stars, the Earth spins just over 366 times upon its axis during one complete orbit. The Earth's orbit around the Sun reduces the number of transits the Sun makes across the Earth's sky in a sidereal year. Colloquial. The word refers to various similarly defined ideas, such as 24 hours, the period of light where the Sun is above the local horizon, the full day covering both the dark and light periods, beginning from the start of the dark period or from a point near the middle of the dark period. A full dark and light period, sometimes called the Night-the-Merong in English, from the Greek for night day. The time period from 600 to 1800 or 2100 or some other fixed clock period overlapping or offset from other time periods such as morning, evening, or night. The time period from first light, dawn, to last light, twilight. Civil day. For civil purposes, a common clock time is typically defined for an entire region based on the local mean solar time at some central meridian. Such time zones began to be adopted about the middle of the 19th century when railroads with regularly occurring schedules came into use. with most major countries having adopted them by 1929. As of 2015, throughout the world, 40 such zones are now in use. The central zone, from which all others are defined as offsets, is known as UTC plus or minus 00, which uses Coordinated Universal Time. The most common convention starts the civil day at midnight. This is near the time of the lower culmination of the sun on the central meridian of the time zone. Such a day may be referred to as a calendar day. A day is commonly divided into 24 hours of 60 minutes, with each minute composed of 60 seconds. Leap seconds. In order to keep the civil day aligned with the apparent movement of the sun, positive or negative leap seconds may be inserted from time to time. Therefore, although typically 86400 seconds in duration, a civil day can be either 86,401 or 86399 seconds long on such a day. Leap seconds are announced in advance by the International Earth Rotation and Reference Systems Service, which measures the Earth's rotation and determines whether a leap second is necessary. Leap seconds occur only at the end of a UTC calculated month, and have only ever been inserted at the end of June 30 or December 31. Boundaries of the day. For most diurnal animals, the day naturally begins at dawn and ends at sunset. Humans, with their cultural norms and scientific knowledge, have employed several different conceptions of the day's boundaries. The Jewish day begins at either sunset or nightfall. Medieval Europe also followed this tradition, known as Florentine reckoning. In this system, a reference like 2 hours into the day meant 2 hours after sunset, and thus times during the evening need to be shifted back one calendar day in modern reckoning. Days such as Christmas Eve, Halloween, and the Eve of St. Agnes are remnants of the older pattern when holidays began during the prior evening. Common convention in modern times is for the civil day to begin at midnight, i.e., 0000, and last a full 24 hours until 2400. Prior to 1926, Turkey had two time systems, Turkish and French. In ancient Egypt, the day was reckoned from sunrise to sunrise. Muslims fast from sunrise to sunset each day during the month of Ramadan. The Damascus document, copies of which were also found among the Dead Sea Scrolls, states regarding the observance of the Sabbath that no one is to do any work on Friday from the moment that the sun's disk stands distant from the horizon by the length of its own diameter, presumably indicating that the monastic community responsible for producing this work counted the day as ending shortly before the sun had begun to set. In many cultures, nights are named after the previous day. For example, Friday night usually means the entire night between Friday and Saturday. This difference from the civil day often leads to confusion. Events starting at midnight are often announced as occurring the day before. TV guides tend to list nightly programs at the previous day, although programming a VCR requires the strict logic of starting the new day at 0000. Expressions like today, yesterday, and tomorrow become ambiguous during the night. Because Jews and Muslims begin their days at nightfall, Saturday night, for example, is what most people would call Friday night. Validity of tickets, passes, etc. for a day or a number of days may end at midnight, or closing time, when that is earlier. However, if a service operates from, for example, 600 to 100 the next day, the last hour may well count as being part of the previous day. For services depending on the day, there is a risk of ambiguity. As an example, for the Nederlandse Spoorwegen, a day ticket is valid 28 hours, from 0000 to 2800. To give another example, the validity of a pass on transport for London services is until the end of the transport day, that is to say, until 4:30 am on the day after the expiry date stamped on the pass. 24 hours versus daytime. To distinguish between a full day and daytime, the word Nachtmerrie may be used in English for the former, or more colloquially the term 24 hours. In other languages, the latter is also often used. Other languages also have a separate word for a full day, such as vuorokausi in Finnish, upäivä in Estonian, dygn in Swedish, dogn in Danish, dogn in Norwegian, solringa in Icelandic, etmaal in Dutch, doba in Polish, in Russian, in Belarusian, in Ukrainian, in Bulgarian and in Hebrew. In Italian, giorno is used to indicate a full day, while di means daytime. In ancient India, ahoratra is used to represent a full day. In Spanish, singladera is used, but only as a marine unit of length, being the distance covered in 24 hours.